Welcome to the Read Multiplex podcast, and a massive welcome to all of you joining us for this deep dive today.
Yeah, it's great to be here for this one.
It really is. We are jumping right into something that, well, I honestly think it's going to fundamentally shift how you view the next few decades of your life.
Absolutely.
Because today we are looking at a roadmap for the future, and I want to set a very clear, incredibly optimistic and visionary tone right from the jump here.
Right. We aren't here to doom scroll today.
Exactly. No doom scrolling. We're here to talk about a future of absolute, unbridled human triumph. Our deep dive today centers entirely on Brian's extraordinary Read Multiplex article.
It's titled The Heroic Ascent from the Abundant Sink.
Yes. And it's this crucial piece of the You Have 5,000 Days series. It's specifically part 17. It tackles what happens when we reach the end of work as we know it.
Which is a heavy topic.
It is. But to get to this breathtaking vision of the future that Brian lays out, we have to start by confronting a trap.
A very famous trap.
A heavily misunderstood trap that you listening have almost certainly encountered. Have you ever heard of the mouse utopia?
I mean, it's one of those psychological and sociological concepts that has just completely permeated the cultural groundwater.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Even if you don't know it by name, you know its shadow. It shapes how policymakers, technologists, and really just everyday people view the whole concept of a post-scarcity world.
Right, and that is exactly our hook for today. We have to acknowledge a very realistic hurdle here. John B. Calhoun's Universe 25 experiment, the mouse utopia, is so deeply ingrained in our cultural psyche.
It's taught everywhere.
Everywhere. It's taught in countless college classes. If you take a Sociology 101 course, or psychology, or urban planning, Universe 25 is almost guaranteed to be on the syllabus.
And it indirectly inspires so many of those dystopian movies and science fiction universes we consume.
Yeah, it does. So we need to spend some time unpacking what this experiment actually was.
Yeah.
Because the mainstream takeaway has convinced way too many people that a societal collapse due to overabundance is just our guaranteed doomed reality.
To understand the grip this has on our collective imagination, we really have to look at how Calhoun set it up.
Walk us through it.
So back in the late 1960s and early 70s, Calhoun built what he believed was a literal paradise for mice.
A literal paradise.
That's right. He created this massive enclosure, a 101-inch square tank, and he sectioned it into different neighborhoods with hundreds of nesting boxes.
Okay.
He provided an infinite supply of food, an infinite supply of water. The temperature was perfectly regulated.
Sounds not so far.
He eliminated all predators, and he eliminated disease. It was, from a purely biological standpoint, absolute perfection.
Wow.
Yeah. And he introduced 4 pairs of healthy mice into this environment and simply watched what happened when the struggle for survival was completely eradicated.
And the result is what has terrified people for half a century.
Terrified is the right word.
The population exploded at first, doubling every 55 days. But once they hit a certain population density, even though there was still plenty of physical space and still infinite food and water, society just completely broke down.
It completely unraveled.
You had hyperviolence, you had mothers abandoning their pups, you had mice that would just sleep all day and attack anything that came near them.
Total behavioral sink.
Exactly. And eventually the population growth just stopped. It flatlined, and then they all died out.
Every single one.
Because of this, leading voices have conditioned us to believe that if humans get everything we need, like if AI and robotics eventually end the struggle for survival and provide total abundance, we will just rot from the inside out.
We're taught that humans literally need the threat of starvation to function.
Which is incredibly bleak.
It is. But what's fascinating here is that this widespread, culturally accepted doom loop narrative entirely misses the reality of Calhoun's underlying motivations.
Say more about that.
Well, our mission for this deep dive is to completely shatter that pessimistic illusion. Because, as Brian points out in the Read Multiplex article, Calhoun actually had a hidden agenda.
A hidden agenda.
He intentionally favored alarm over action. He wanted to shock the public.
Oh, wow. So he was playing to the fears of the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keep in mind this was the time of Paul Ehrlich's The Population Bomb. There was massive cultural anxiety about overpopulation and urban crowding.
Right, the 70s.
Yeah. So Calhoun built a narrative to fit that anxiety, but he stopped short of offering true remedies. He wanted to ring the alarm bell, but he deliberately chose not to build a fire escape.
Which is incredibly frustrating. It's like a doctor handing you a terminal diagnosis based on a lab test, offering absolutely zero treatment plan, and then just walking out of the room.
It leaves everyone paralyzed.
It does. It leaves everyone paralyzed. And that is why today's deep dive is so vital. We
Mm.
want to make it undeniably clear to you that Brian provides a much more likely and ultimately much more empowering insight into our future.
He really does.
He isn't just pointing at the failing mice. He is handing us the blueprints for an ascent out of that trap.
Precisely. We are going to examine how to navigate the end of traditional labor, not with fear,
Right.
and certainly not with the creeping dread of becoming obsolete, but as a grand, epic adventure.
An adventure. I love that framing.
We are talking about humanity transitioning from a state of artificial scarcity into an era where abundance fuels human exaltation.
But to earn that optimism, we have to look reality straight in the eye first.
We do.
We have to look at the warning signs flashing in our own modern society.
Yes, the reality check. In the Read Multiplex article, Brian references these 15 points of awareness.
Right, the 15 points.
These are essentially parallels that map our current societal trends directly to the early stages of the Universe 25 collapse.
But we need to be honest with ourselves and with you listening. Many of these 15 points are already playing out on some level right now.
They absolutely are.
We're seeing demographic winters with plummeting birth rates in post-industrial nations. We're seeing the fracturing of local communities.
The isolation is huge.
Yeah. We see the rise of the hikikomori phenomenon, hundreds of thousands of young people completely withdrawing from society, locking themselves in their rooms for years.
Just completely checking out.
And we see strange behavioral sinks forming in digital spaces, like the hyper-aggression on social media that perfectly mirrors the random violence of Calhoun's crowded mice.
The parallels are striking.
It can feel terrifying when you see it all laid out like that.
It can, but I want to push back on that terror because this is a crucial distinction we need to make right now.
Okay.
Recognizing these 15 points is not a reason to panic. Panicking is exactly what the hidden agenda of the original experiment wanted us to do.
It wanted us to throw our hands up in despair.
Exactly. Rather, recognizing these parallels is about crucial awareness. By seeing the parallels clearly, we can actively avoid the trap.
So it's a diagnostic tool.
Yes. Think of it like a pilot reading a weather radar. Seeing a massive thunderstorm on the screen isn't a reason for the pilot to panic. It's a reason to alter the flight path.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
The trials we face manifest in these parallels, and as Brian explains, each one is a forge for our character. They are tests of our adaptability, not a predetermined death sentence.
Let me push you on that, though. Because it's one thing to say, oh, we just need to alter the flight path. But when you look at who is steering the ship in our society, it looks a lot like they are flying us directly into the eye of the storm.
That is a very fair point.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there's one specific, highly visible parallel taking place right now that you, the listener, really need to be ready to see. It's happening in real time.
The beautiful ones.
Yes. In Calhoun's experiment, as the mouse society broke down, a very specific group emerged. Calhoun dubbed them the beautiful ones.
Yes. The beautiful ones are perhaps the most chilling aspect of the entire Universe 25 experiment, primarily because the parallel to our current world is so uncomfortably stark.
Exactly. These mice completely withdrew from the challenges of their society.
Just opted right out.
Right. While the rest of the enclosure was descending into chaos, violence, and infant mortality, the beautiful ones just opted out. They didn't breed. They didn't fight for territory.
And so social contribution at all.
None. They didn't contribute to the community in any meaningful way. All they did, literally their entire existence, was eat, sleep, and meticulously groom themselves.
Grooming all day.
Yeah, they isolated themselves in these bubbles of pure abundance, entirely disconnected from the societal collapse happening mere inches away from them.
Just walled off.
Their coats were perfect. They had no scars, but they were completely hollow.
And if we look around today, specifically at the uppermost echelons of our society, we are seeing elites stepping perfectly into the roles of the beautiful ones.
Oh, absolutely.
We are witnessing an extreme withdrawal from the shared human experience.
It's undeniable. You look at the ultra-wealthy, retreating to literal and figurative bunkers. They are isolating themselves in gated communities, buying up private islands, and surrounding themselves with echo chambers of pure, unfiltered abundance.
Creating their own little frictionless enclosures.
Yes, they're actively avoiding meaningful contribution to the messy, difficult, friction-filled work of moving society forward. Instead of engaging, they are grooming themselves.
Right.
We see billionaires completely obsessed with extreme longevity protocols, taking dozens of supplements, hyper-curating their digital personas, and building insular luxury ecosystems, while completely withdrawing from the civic and social challenges of the day.
This is exactly why the awareness of these parallels is so vital. If we don't recognize that these elites are falling headfirst into the trap of the beautiful ones, we might be tempted to emulate them.
Because culture worships the wealthy.
Exactly. Culture tends to worship the wealthy. We might mistakenly believe that withdrawing into a bubble of personal, frictionless abundance is the ultimate goal of a post-work society.
Like that's the dream.
Right. If AI does everything for us, the dream shouldn't be to just sit in a pod and get a massage while the world burns.
No.
Brian's analysis shows us that this withdrawal is the very definition of the abundance sink. It is a state of living decay.
Living decay.
The beautiful ones in Universe 25 were physically flawless, but they were psychologically and spiritually extinct long before their bodies actually died. They had lost the essence of what made them alive.
They were just breathing statues.
Perfect description.
And we see that same hollowness today when the pursuit of wealth, safety, and comfort completely eclipses the pursuit of purpose. But here is the pivot.
Right.
Brian doesn't just point fingers at the elites and say, look at the beautiful ones, we're doomed.
Yeah.
He doesn't wallow in the problem. He flips the entire script.
He really does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where Brian's ultimate solution begins to take shape. He introduces this profound concept of the interregnum.
The interregnum.
Historically, an interregnum is a period of discontinuity. It's the gap in a government, organization, or social order. It's the chaotic, unpredictable space between the old world and the new world.
The messy middle.
Yes. We are entering an economic and societal interregnum right now, the space between the old world of traditional labor and the new world of absolute AI-driven abundance.
Okay.
Instead of seeing this transition as a terrifying collapse, Brian frames the interregnum as an unprecedented opportunity for human greatness.
And this brings us to what I think is the absolute core of the Read Multiplex article. Brian's thesis is that we must transcend this abundance sink by framing the interregnum as the grand monomyth.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey.
Yeah.
This isn't just a neat literary trick. He is telling you right now that you are not a passive victim of macroeconomic shift.
You're not just collateral damage.
No. You are not a helpless bystander watching algorithms take over the labor market. You are the hero of an epic saga.
The application of the hero's journey here is a stroke of absolute brilliance. It takes something terrifying and imbues it with profound meaning.
It changes everything.
The monomyth, as mapped out by Joseph Campbell, is the underlying structure of almost every great myth, religion, and story throughout human history.
From Star Wars to Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. The hero lives in an ordinary world, receives a call to adventure, initially refuses it, meets a mentor, crosses the threshold into the unknown, faces trials, discovers allies, achieves a great victory, and returns to transform their world.
It's the classic arc.
And Brian maps this directly and flawlessly onto our current economic transition.
Let's walk through that map step by step, because this is literally how you navigate the coming years. It all starts in the ordinary world.
Which is what we know now.
Right, which for us is the 9-to-5 grind, the commute, the mortgage, the defining of our entire self-worth by our job title.
The enclosures.
Yes, the enclosures. Then comes the call to adventure. In a movie, it's a wizard knocking on your door or a distress message hidden in a droid. But in our era, the call arrives as job loss.
Yeah.
The end of traditional work through automation or systemic economic shifts. Now, for most of us, that feels like a tragedy. It feels like the floor dropping out from under you. You lose your income, your routine, your identity. But how does Brian reframe this moment?
He reframes it entirely by stripping away the industrial era programming we've all been subjected to.
Tell me more about that.
This job loss, the obsolescence of rote labor, is not a tragedy in Brian's framework. It is, in his exact words, a summons to greatness.
A summons to greatness.
Wow. Think about the profundity of that shift in perspective. For centuries, humanity has defined its worth by its capacity to toil.
Yeah, to suffer through the friction.
We are valued by how much friction we can endure for a paycheck. Now, as that requirement falls away, we are being summoned to discover what we are truly capable of when we are no longer chained to pure survival tasks.
It's liberating.
But, as with every heroic myth, the initial reaction to the call is almost always the same. The refusal of the call.
Oh, the refusal's so real, I see it every day. People fighting tooth and nail to keep inefficient systems alive just so they can keep doing busy work.
Just clinging to the old way.
And the Read Multiplex article warns us exactly what happens if we refuse this call. If we cling desperately to the old ways, if we demand to be put back into the artificial enclosures of busy work, or worse, if we just give up and withdraw into our screens like the beautiful ones, we plunge directly into what Brian calls the Sinks abyss.
The Sinks abyss.
Refusal of the call means succumbing to the decay of the abundance trap. It means choosing the fate of Universe 25. You have to step out the door, you have to answer the summons, even when it terrifies you.
And the beauty of the monomyth is that when you finally step out that door, you don't do it alone.
Never alone.
The hero's journey always involves finding mentors and forging allies. In the old paradigm, your mentor was your middle manager or a senior executive, and your allies were just the coworkers who happened to be forced to sit in the cubicles next to you.
Right. People you might not even like.
Exactly. It was an artificial community based on geographic and economic necessity. But Brian envisions a radical shift. In this new era, mentors will arise in guilds and through timeless wisdom.
I want to pause on this idea of guilds because it feels wonderfully historical, but perfectly suited for the future.
It's a great concept.
When we hear guild, we might think of medieval blacksmiths or stonemasons. But in a post-work abundance economy, a guild isn't a corporate hierarchy. It's a community of craft, of intellect, of shared passion.
Shared passion is the key.
Yeah. It's people coming together because they genuinely want to advance a specific skill or idea, not because they are being paid a salary to tolerate each other.
And the allies. Brian emphasizes that these new alliances will be forged in purely voluntary bonds.
Voluntary bond.
This is such a crucial distinction for you to internalize. The community of the future isn't based on forced proximity. You aren't friends just because you share a break room or a Slack channel. You choose your communities based on shared purpose.
It is a massively powerful upgrade to the human social experience. It is the difference between a prison yard and an expeditionary team.
That's a profound way to put it.
In a prison yard, you associate with people for survival and protection. On an expeditionary team, you bond over a shared, difficult goal.
Right. When bonds are voluntary and based on a shared vision, the energy is entirely different. It becomes generative rather than defensive.
Generative.
And you will need that generative energy because the journey through the interregnum is not without hardship. We mentioned the 15 points of awareness earlier, the parallels to the societal breakdown.
The warning signs.
Right. These are the road of trials in our hero's journey. The alienation, the shifting economic sands, the temptation to withdraw into virtual reality. These are the dragons we must slay. But as Brian notes, each of these trials acts as a forge.
They temper the steel.
Yes.
Every time you resist the urge to just scroll mindlessly for 6 hours, every time you choose to build something instead of consume something, you are passing a trial.
You're leveling up.
And what are we forging our character for? What is the reward at the end of this epic saga? In Campbell's hero's journey, it's called the ultimate boon.
The ultimate boon.
It's the elixir the hero brings back to save the world. And the boon Brian reveals is nothing short of breathtaking.
It really is.
It is a society completely reborn, a society where abundance does not fuel decay, like it did for those poor mice in Universe 25, but rather it fuels human exaltation.
Exaltation.
That word exaltation. It means a state of extreme happiness, of being raised to a higher rank or state of power. That is the promise of the interregnum. We aren't just surviving, we are ascending.
Exaltation is the perfect word because it implies an elevation of the human spirit, not just a satiation of human appetite.
Not just a full belly.
Right, but to reach that state of exaltation, personal mindset shifts, accepting the call to adventure are only half the battle. We also have to completely redesign the physical and legal architecture of our society.
Because the old systems won't hold it.
Exactly. We cannot pour the new wine of ultimate abundance into the old, brittle wineskins of industrial-era bureaucracy. Brian outlines that solutions must ignite with redesigning structures for liberty and purpose.
Now let me challenge this a bit.
Okay.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When we talk about societal structures, we usually mean government and law. And let's be real, government laws are historically designed to restrict, to manage, to control, and to tax.
Fences.
Right. They are designed to put fences around things. But Brian calls for governments to craft laws that liberate.
Yes.
What does a liberating law even look like? How do we actively design systems that encourage freedom and exploration rather than just keeping people safe, sedated, and stagnant in a giant, comfortable cage?
The contrast with Universe 25 is vital here to answer your question. Calhoun's mouse utopia was the ultimate enclosed, safe, managed space.
Total management.
It was a perfectly governed enclosure that provided everything and demanded absolutely nothing. There was no risk, no frontier, no possibility of escaping the box.
And that drove them insane.
That total lack of friction led directly to madness. To avoid this, our liberating laws must literally shatter those enclosures.
Shatter them.
A liberating law doesn't tell you what you can't do. It removes the barriers to what you could do. It lowers the cost of innovation. It deregulates experimentation.
And Brian gives us an incredibly vivid, almost sci-fi example of what that looks like in practice. He says we need to incentivize stellar exploration through bold grants.
Space travel.
Yes. Now, at first glance, someone might think, why are we talking about space travel when we're talking about the end of work? But think about the psychology of it.
It's brilliant.
The antidote to feeling trapped on a comfortable, abundant planet is to look up and reach out.
Yeah.
I love the analogy he uses here. It's like a hero bursting from the cave.
Bursting from the cave.
The Earth, for all its beauty and history, is ultimately an enclosure if we never leave it. It is a finite tank. By pushing for stellar exploration, by making it a societal imperative funded by bold, liberating initiatives, we shatter the ceiling of our utopia. We give human ambition a canvas that is truly infinite.
Stellar exploration is the ultimate physical manifestation of escaping the abundance sink. It provides infinite friction and infinite discovery.
You can't be lazy in space.
No, you really can't. You cannot be a beautiful one lounging in a luxury pod if you were trying to figure out how to terraform Mars or navigate an asteroid belt.
Right.
Space demands resilience, cooperation, and extreme intellect.
But Brian understands that not everyone is going to be an astronaut.
Right.
There are terrestrial intellectual structures we need to redesign as well. He goes deep into the necessity of fostering what we touched on earlier, guilds of rational creators.
Let's expand on that. Guilds of rational creators.
Tell me how they differ from what we have now.
In the traditional work environment, innovation is often chained to quarterly profits, proprietary patents, NDAs, and corporate silos.
All the red tape.
Exactly. If you have a brilliant idea, your company owns it, and they might bury it if it threatens their current product line.
Which happens all the time.
A guild of rational creators is a collaborative ecosystem where the goal is the creation itself, the mastery of the skill, and the sharing of that knowledge.
So it's pure creation.
Think of the early open source software movement, but expanded to physical engineering, biology, art, and philosophy. It is open source human potential, completely free from the chains of corporate monopolization.
It's the exact opposite of the beautiful ones hoarding their comfort.
And,
It's active, communal, purposeful creation.
but let's be honest,
Yeah.
not everyone is going to be a stellar explorer, and not everyone wants to join a highly technical guild of rational creators.
That's true.
Some people just need space to run. They need to experiment, to be weird, to be untamed, to make a mess without a homeowners association or a city council breathing down their neck.
A place without all the rules.
And that brings us to what I think is the most profound and necessary concept in the entire Read Multiplex article: wild zones.
I love this concept.
I agree completely. The concept of wild zones requires deep analysis because it is the pressure valve that saves society from exploding.
A pressure valve.
Brian defines these wild zones as havens of unregulated genius. This is such a critical concept. If we look at the entire history of humanity, there has always been a frontier.
Always an edge.
There has always been an edge of the map where the rules didn't quite apply yet, whether it was the literal Wild West or international waters or the early dial-up days of the internet.
Oh, the early internet for sure.
There was always a place where misfits, pioneers, and divergent thinkers could go to build something entirely new, free from legacy systems.
But over the last century, we've paved over the wild zones. The globe has become entirely mapped, heavily interconnected, and hyper-regulated.
You can't escape the grid.
You really can't. You can't even build a shed in your backyard without 3 permits and a zoning board hearing. The physical frontier has largely vanished.
It's all managed now.
And if we enter a post-work era of absolute abundance, with AI handling all the logistics and we have no frontier, we are putting ourselves right back into Calhoun's mouse box. We will go crazy. We will turn on each other.
Precisely. The human spirit requires friction. It requires the unknown. It requires the right to take a risk and fail spectacularly.
We need to be able to fail.
Brian argues that these wild zones echo the ancient human call for migration. For millennia, when a society became too stagnant, too rigid, or when resources shifted, humans migrated.
We moved.
We walked across ice bridges and sailed across uncharted oceans. That migratory, exploratory impulse is hardwired into our DNA.
We are explorers.
In a world of ubiquitous abundance, where you don't have to migrate for food, we must intentionally create and protect these havens of unregulated genius to serve as a vital outlet for human energy.
So what does a wild zone look like today? Is it a special economic zone? Is it an experimental charter city in the desert?
Maybe.
Is it seasteading out in international waters? Or is it entirely new digital and virtual frontiers, like immersive VR worlds where the standard laws of physics and economics simply do not apply?
It will likely be a combination of all of those.
Yeah.
The key is that the standard regulations of the utopia must be suspended in these zones.
So no safety nets.
Or at least you opt out of the strict management. If you want to build a highly experimental nuclear reactor or test radical new architectural structures or try a completely new form of community governance, you go to the wild zone. You accept the personal risk in exchange for absolute creative freedom.
Picture this for a second. Imagine a world where you have complete baseline security. You will never starve. You will always have shelter and healthcare.
The baseline utopia.
But you also have the option, at any moment, to pack up and step into a wild zone, a place where you can build, create, fail, and experiment without asking for permission from a labyrinth of bureaucracy.
It's freeing just to think about.
It's intoxicating just thinking about it. And this leads us directly into Brian's highly unique take on the concept of universal basic income, or UBI.
Basic income is a topic fraught with intense debate, and rightly so.
Very intense debate.
Primarily because, in its simplest, most widely advocated form, just giving people a check every month so they can consume things, it risks creating the exact conditions of Universe 25.
It creates the mouse enclosure.
Giving people resources without any attached purpose, without any call to adventure, is the literal formula for the abundance sink. It breeds the beautiful ones.
Just sitting around grooming.
But Brian reframes basic income entirely. He argues that it shouldn't just be idle money dropped into an idle lap. It must be woven into tapestries of voluntary service and epic adventures.
Now I have to stop you there because my skeptical alarm bells are ringing.
Let's hear it.
If we weave basic income into service and adventure, isn't it no longer basic? Doesn't that just mean we are creating a new weird form of employment? How do we prevent this from just becoming another bureaucratic hoop people have to jump through?
That is the crucial needle to thread. Brian is not suggesting a dystopian social credit system where the government dictates what constitutes good service.
Right.
He is talking about a cultural and structural shift where the grant of abundance is tied to active participation in the human project. It's about creating pathways.
Okay, pathways.
If UBI is the baseline, society must overwhelmingly incentivize and celebrate stepping off that baseline into a guild, a wild zone, or a stellar exploration initiative. The money facilitates the journey. It doesn't replace it.
I see. It's not an allowance for sitting on the couch and playing video games until your eyes bleed.
Exactly.
It is a foundational grant to fund your hero's journey. By weaving this abundance into voluntary service, art, science, and epic adventures, you are completely rewiring the psychology of the recipient.
Rewiring it away from the sink.
You are given the resources to survive so that you can go out and truly live. You are funded to take risks that you could never take if you were worried about paying rent.
Exactly. And the brilliant, undeniable outcome of this reframing, as Brian states, is that it banishes invented torments directly to the void.
Invented torments. Oh, I love that phrase.
This is a very sharp, very necessary psychological insight. Human beings are problem-solving engines.
We have to fix things.
When we are deprived of meaningful struggle, we do not simply sit back and enjoy the peace. We invent torment.
Oh, we've all seen this. People who have nothing real to worry about will invent a crisis just to feel something.
Absolutely.
They will start massive feuds over a perceived slight in a neighborhood Facebook group. They will generate conflict over infinitesimal things. They will fall into neuroses. They will embrace extreme political polarization because the brain demands a problem to solve.
It needs a target.
If there is no tiger to fight, we will fight our neighbor over where they put their recycling bin. That is the abundance sink playing out in the human mind.
It is the behavioral sink in action. But if your basic needs are met, and society actively encourages you to step into a wild zone, or join a guild of rational creators, or embark on an epic intellectual adventure, those invented torments vanish.
They disappear.
They are banished to the void because your mind is occupied with actual challenges, chosen freely. You're trying to solve real complex problems instead of manifesting artificial drama.
It is a brilliant synthesis of economic policy and human psychology.
It really is.
But a societal redesign of this magnitude, building wild zones, funding stellar exploration, redefining UBI, requires a profound shift at the individual level.
You still have to do the work.
We can build all the wild zones we want, we can build the rockets, but the individual must be prepared to step into them. The door can be open, but you still have to walk through it.
Which brings us to the ultimate responsibility. The macro solutions fail if the micro foundation is weak.
So true.
Brian lays out a highly specific personal roadmap for this odyssey, and it demands quite a bit from the individual.
Let's bring this right down to the ground. So what does this all mean for you navigating your life right now?
That's the question.
How do you prepare yourself for this monumental shift away from traditional work? Brian's personal roadmap starts with one foundational, absolute requirement: cultivating unyielding resilience.
Unyielding resilience is non-negotiable here.
Tell me why.
The transition out of the world of traditional work is going to be incredibly disorienting. For generations, the first question we ask someone when we meet them is, what do you do?
Right. We mean, what is your job?
When the old markers of status, identity, and daily routine dissolve, it will trigger an identity crisis on a global scale.
A massive crisis.
Resilience is the armor required to survive the interregnum. You have to be able to withstand the dissolution of the world you knew without losing your sense of self.
And Brian pairs this resilience with the active need to contemplate your purpose with rational clarity.
Rational clarity.
I love that phrasing. It's not the cliche advice of just follow your passion, which is, well, it's often terrible advice.
Usually very bad advice.
It means actively, rationally dissecting yourself. What are you actually good at? What does the new world need? What brings you a sense of deep, abiding fulfillment that doesn't rely on a boss handing you a performance review?
It requires a brutal honesty with yourself.
But this raises a really important practical question. How do we actually adapt when the old world vanishes overnight? When the AI agent suddenly does the job you went to school for 8 years to learn?
This raises an important question because that is the core trauma of the transition.
Yes.
Brian's advice on how to adapt is twofold. First, as we touched on, you must forge alliances of mutual respect.
The voluntary bonds.
You cannot navigate the interregnum alone. The rugged individualist trope doesn't survive this transition. You need a tribe, a guild, a community of individuals who respect your agency and share your rational approach to the future.
People who build you up.
You need people who will hold you accountable to your potential, not people who will join you in complaining about the past.
And the second part.
Second, you must embrace metamorphosis as the ultimate adventure.
Embracing metamorphosis. Think of the caterpillar and the butterfly. We've all heard the analogy, but think about the biology of it.
It's actually quite brutal.
The caterpillar doesn't just sprout wings. It builds a chrysalis, and then it literally digests itself. It turns into a biological soup to become something entirely new.
A total breakdown.
We're going to have to digest our old identities, our job titles, our 9-to-5 routines, our corporate ladder climbing, our entire concept of weekends and retirement,
Right.
and allow ourselves to transform.
You have to let it dissolve.
If you fight the metamorphosis, you just end up a very frustrated caterpillar in a cocoon that's getting way too tight.
That is a visceral but highly accurate analogy. The digestion of the old identity is painful but necessary.
It is.
And this brings us to the ultimate contrast, the definitive antidote to the shadow of Universe 25.
The formulas.
Brian outlines 3 fundamental philosophical formulas for success in this personal odyssey. These are the guiding principles of the new era, and they stand in direct, intentional opposition to the behavior of the mice in Calhoun's experiment.
Let's break those 3 formulas down because they are your survival guide. The first formula: flexibility triumphs over rigidity.
Look at the beautiful ones in Universe 25.
So rigid.
They were incredibly rigid. They had one mode: eat, sleep, groom. When the social structure collapsed around them, they had no capacity to adapt. They couldn't change their behavior.
They just kept grooming while everything burned.
To survive and thrive in the interregnum, you have to be radically flexible. If your industry gets automated tomorrow, your response cannot be rigidity, anger, and despair.
It has to be, okay, the map just changed. What is my next adventure?
The second formula is equally critical. Reason triumphs over chaos.
Reason over chaos.
As the abundance sink took hold in Universe 25, the enclosure descended into utter, mindless chaos. You had erratic behavior, random violence, hypersexuality, and total social breakdown.
It was pure instinct taking over.
It was an entirely emotion-driven, instinctual collapse. Brian is telling us that our primary defense against the chaos of the interregnum is reason.
We must be rational creators.
We must contemplate our purpose with rational clarity. As the economic tectonic plates shift beneath our feet, there will be a massive temptation to give in to fear, anger, and tribalism.
We see that happening already.
We cannot let emotions dictate our actions. We must use our intellect, our logic, and our reason to navigate the storm.
And the third formula, which might be the most profound of all, virtue triumphs over vice.
Virtue.
Let's really think about this. When there are no external rules forcing you to work, there's no boss tracking your hours, no fear of starvation forcing you to behave, no economic necessity forcing you to contribute, what stops you from just succumbing to your base vices?
What stops you from becoming a beautiful one?
What stops you from becoming a glutton or a tyrant or a beautiful one? It has to be internally generated virtue.
Internal compass.
It is the active daily choice to be good, to be productive, to be helpful, and to be courageous. Not because a system demands it of you under threat of poverty, but because you demand it of yourself out of respect for your own potential.
These three principles, flexibility, reason, and virtue, constitute what Brian calls a sacred map.
A sacred map.
It is a philosophical compass for an uncharted age, and the stakes of following this map could not be higher. We are not merely talking about maintaining the status quo or finding a way to keep people busy.
No, the stakes are cosmic.
By heeding this map, by building the wild zones, by leaning into the hero's journey, humanity doesn't just evade extinction. We actively ascend to cosmic heights.
We actively ascend. I want everyone listening to truly feel the power of that framing. We aren't just dodging a bullet here.
We are launching a rocket.
Yes. By rejecting the abundant sink, by choosing the grand monomyth over the mouse utopia, we claim abundance as our eternal elixir. It stops being a poison that rots us from the inside out and becomes the high-octane fuel that propels us to the stars, both literally and figuratively.
It is a magnificent, deeply optimistic end state that Brian envisions in the Read Multiplex article.
It really is.
But it is vital to remember that he does not sugarcoat the process. The journey demands valor.
Real valor.
Stepping into the unknown of the interregnum, facing the loss of traditional societal structures, looking into the void of unlimited free time without losing your mind, avoiding the trap of becoming the isolated elites, all of this requires tremendous sustained courage.
But the return on that courage, the return, unleashes what Brian beautifully describes as a symphony of human triumph.
A symphony of triumph.
Imagine the music of a society that has finally truly broken free from the daily grinding anxiety of basic survival. Worlds conquered, in the literal sense of stellar exploration, but also in the figurative realms of science, philosophy, and art.
Spirits unbound from the artificial scarcity that has defined our species since the dawn of time.
It is the promise of a golden epoch, an era where every soul has the opportunity to shine not as a replaceable cog in an industrial machine, but as an architect of their own destiny.
If we navigate this correctly, we become the guardians of our legacy, ensuring that the fire of human ingenuity is never extinguished by the damp, heavy blanket of unearned comfort.
We become the beacons of an unbreakable dawn.
In this epic saga, as Brian writes, we are the heroes, and the future is our immortal realm.
It's breathtaking. It really is. It takes this dark, terrifying, deeply cynical concept of the mouse utopia that we've been beaten over the head with for 50 years, and it flips it into the greatest call to action humanity has ever received.
It provides the vital missing piece that Calhoun intentionally left out.
The fire escape.
It provides the remedy. Awareness of the parallels, redesigned structures that liberate, the creation of wild zones, the intelligent reframing of basic income, and a deep commitment to personal metamorphosis.
It is a complete, systemic, and individual solution to the greatest challenge of our time.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into this incredibly profound Read Multiplex article. But I cannot let you go without leaving you with a final, provocative thought.
Something to take with them.
Something for you to deeply mull over as you go about your day, as you look at your current job, as you observe the rapidly changing world around you.
It's a big question.
We've talked a lot about the macro of today's society, laws, the monomyth. But let's make it deeply personal. Since the future is our immortal realm, and you are the hero of this epic saga, what does your personal wild zone look like?
That is the question.
Think about it. If the call to adventure arrived at your doorstep tomorrow morning in the form of absolute abundance, Let's say all your basic needs are met forever, your mortgage is gone, your healthcare is covered, and your traditional daily grind completely evaporates. What specific, unregulated genius would you unleash upon the world?
What would you build?
What would you explore? What art would you create? Or what science would you pursue to ensure that you never, ever become one of the isolated, hollow, beautiful ones?
It's a massive question.
But as we enter the interregnum, it's the only question that matters. Thank you so much for joining us on this extraordinary journey today on The Deep Dive.
Thank you.
We hope this exploration of the Read Multiplex podcast themes has equipped you for the adventure ahead. We'll be back soon to explore the next frontier. Until then, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep forging your path.